There are certain Excel terms that we should use consistently. In Excel, a file is a workbook. A workbook is a file. And nearly always we can use those two terms interchangeably. The current workbook is called 01-Getting Started. We see the name at the top of the screen. If you've just opened Excel, you'll probably seeing a file with a temporary name, Book 1, possibly Book 2, something like that. Every workbook is comprised of at least one worksheet. Although the term spreadsheet is widely used by people who use Excel, officially and formally in Excel, every workbook has at least one worksheet in it. If you start a new workbook, it will have 3 empty worksheets in it. At the bottom of the screen, we see worksheet tabs. In this particular workbook, we've got a tab called Revenue Chart by Department. To the left of that, 2015 Home Products Revenue. Far off to the right, a Profits Sheet. These are worksheets, often abbreviated. We simply call them sheets. We can add sheets, we can delete sheets, we can move them, we can copy them. It's not uncommon for a workbook to have more than one active worksheet in it. Sometimes you'll see a workbook with a different sheet for each month, or possibly a different worksheet for each region for the organization that you work for, or a different worksheet for each state. So some workbooks have many, many worksheets. All worksheets essentially are alike, at least initially, and they are comprised of columns and rows. Columns are vertical. They're identified by letters. Rows are horizontal. They're identified by numbers. And we never want to use the two terms interchangeably. Columns are vertical, rows are horizontal. If I click on a cell here using the mouse, or possibly I use arrow keys on my keyboard, each time I use one of the arrow keys, or if I move the mouse and click with the left mouse button somewhere, I've selected a single cell. Every cell in Excel on an Excel worksheet has an address. Right now I'm in column K, row 3, therefore the address of that cell is K3. And in the upper left corner of a worksheet, you'll see the address listed there. This is called a name box where I'm circling with the mouse. That's cell K3. So by using arrow keys or simply moving the mouse and clicking somewhere, we're going to a different location. If I keep moving the arrow to the right here, we see how the column lettering scheme goes to the letter Z, and then we start AA, AB, and so on. Goes through the alphabet this way. And eventually we'll come to the end of the 2-letter scheme, and it goes to a 3-letter scheme. Now, if I start pressing right arrow, it's going to take me a long time to get to the far right. I'm going to hold down the Control key, and with it held down, I'll press right arrow. This is the last column in all Excel worksheets, column XFD. It would take you a while to figure out what that is numerically, but it's 16,384. That's how many columns we have in an Excel worksheet. If we want to go back to the upper left-hand corner in any worksheet, we can hold down the Control key and press the key called Home. And nearly always that'll take us over to cell A1. As I move down the screen leftward, pressing the down arrow, we see how the numbers keep going up and up and up. And it would really, really take me a long time to get to the bottom here if I were pressing arrows like this. I'll hold down the Control key and press the down arrow, and we see that the last row, 1,048,576. Every Excel worksheet has that number of rows in it. If you're wondering where that number comes from, it's actually 2 to the 20th power. All the underlying math and computers, of course, is binary, and that's where the number comes from. So an Excel worksheet is quite large, over 1 million rows, over 16,000 columns. Remember, at any time, to go back to the upper left corner, it's Control Home. In any worksheet, at different times and for different reasons, we can make columns wider or narrower. We can make rows taller or shorter. Every workbook has at least one worksheet, and we've got the same basic structure in every worksheet. Lots of rows, lots of columns. Again, the terms workbook refer to files. Files are workbooks, workbooks are files, and every workbook has worksheets within it, at least one.